right, Saagar, what's on your radar?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the last 6 months haven't been a complete and total S show. But as the RNC continues, as I see Joe Biden dither, and I see the polls tighten to their 2016 levels, and in some cases even closer, I watch the media say with complete confidence that Biden is a total lock. I can't help but think, maybe Donald Trump has got a shot after all. I especially began to think this during the RNC. It reminded me so much of the 2016 election. At that time, the news cycle was full of dumb scandals, as they are right now. Trump says this, Trump said that. The Trump campaign had a secret anti-Semitic message on a cereal box. But if you really paid attention, you saw moments that brilliantly critiqued globalism and the free market system, which no Republican politician has said for nearly 100 years. Moments like this one.
You haven't done it in 30 years or 26 years.
Well,
any number you
I've
want to
been
do.
a senator,
You
Donald,
haven't done it.
And
you haven't
I
done
have
it.
been a
And
Secretary of State, and I have
Your husband signed NAFTA, which was one of the worst things that ever happened to the manufacturing industry.
That is your opinion.
You go to New England, you go to Ohio, Pennsylvania, you go anywhere you want, Secretary Clinton, and you will see devastation where manufacturing is down 30, 40, sometimes 50%. NAFTA is the worst trade deal maybe ever signed anywhere, but certainly ever signed in this country. And now you want to approve Trans-Pacific Partnership. You were totally in favor of it. Then you heard what I was saying, how bad it is, and you said, I can't win that debate. But you know that if you did win, you would approve that, and that will be almost as bad as NAFTA. Nothing will ever top NAFTA.
That is just not accurate.
Nobody in professional media was capable of digesting that moment at the time. To the extent people at CNN or MSNBC were analyzing it, they probably said it was sexist because he kept talking over her. But at the same time that they were delivering their anodyne commentary, the reaction dials were going through the roof in terms of how the general public was receiving it. Trump has not exactly governed the way that I wish he would have. Many promises remain unkept or forgotten, but sometimes something appears to have changed in recent days, with a return, at least occasionally, to the core themes that got Trump elected in 2016. We saw that the first night of the RNC when he welcomed and thanked essential workers. I saw a glimpse of it in the latest ad that was released by the Trump campaign, featured at the RNC yesterday.
A new study reveals the U.S. has lost 5 million manufacturing jobs since 2000.
The U.S. economy is seeing its worst economic recovery since 1949.
China has made remarkable strides in the past 20 years.
Under President Obama, the recovery ranks as the worst of the 11 recoveries since the Depression.
The reason I'm here is because of President Obama and Joe Biden. Because if they did a good job, I wouldn't be here.
He's going to bring all these jobs back. Well, how exactly are you going to do that? What magic wand do you have?
You need a magic wand. No, you don't. We need manufacturing jobs. My administration added over 500,000 manufacturing jobs.
You can't contradict that these are the best numbers of our lives.
The federal government's monthly unemployment report just out this morning is a huge surprise after the damage of the coronavirus pandemic.
It appears to be a stunner, much better than expected.
2.5 million jobs in the month of May.
Don't get me wrong, Trump is still a long shot for victory. But all the ingredients for another win are right there, especially if he leans further into his 2016 message. If he releases more ads like that, and more importantly reminds Americans, as he did in that first clip I played, that Joe Biden is not a Trojan horse for socialism, instead a Trojan horse for Hillary Clintonism. If you look close enough, you can see exactly where Biden is most vulnerable. A New York Times analysis just released yesterday shows that Trump continues to get higher marks on the handling of the economy than Barack Obama, George W. Bush, and George H.W. Bush at this time when they ran for re-election. Yes, you heard that right. Trump outpaces Obama's numbers on the economy when he ran for re-election in 2012. It shows once again, something that I've long believed. Barack Obama was one of the most beatable presidents to ever run for re-election. The problem for his opponent was that Mitt Romney ran on an even more unpopular economic policy than Obama, so workers chose the lesser of two evils. Voters did not trust his handling of the financial crisis. Today, Barack Obama and Joe Biden are joined at the hip. The way to beat Joe Biden is to remind working-class Americans just how disappointed they felt in 2012. Now, the economic data reveals something else, that the approval of Trump's handling of the economy shows that Americans don't blame him singularly. They blame the system. Why shouldn't they? Right now, Trump's executive order on unemployment is on track to run out in 3 weeks. Where is Congress? It's not in Washington. They're on vacation or running for re-election. What we said over and over again here was that coronavirus revealed to us a lot about our society, how broken our institutions are, how rotten the system is. Voters don't singularly blame Trump, even though he bears much of the blame. They blame Washington, which exactly reveals the path to victory and Biden's vulnerability. Biden right now has the same odds of winning the election today that Hillary Clinton did in 2016. By most measures, he should be cleaning things up. Perhaps he's not, because he isn't running against the system. He's running to embrace the system, rebuild it, regird it. Yesterday, I covered how every neocon on earth wants him to win, along with Wall Street, Hollywood, and the other worst members of our society. What Americans have voted for every year since 2008 is change, and what they demand is that right now. The more Trump leans into a change message against the Washington system and against Biden's role in architecting that system, then the better chance that he's going to have in November. The RNC can have many cringe moments, as it did in 2016, and even today. He could still overcome it. This fact speaks to something about this country right now, how much it yearns for a revolution in Washington, and how somebody better give it to them, or the dam is going to break eventually. I think it's pretty remarkable, because you look at those numbers, Trump's handling of the economy numbers are higher than Obama's in 2012. I mean, it just goes to show you, like I said, Obama could have easily been beat in 2012 if he'd been run a little bit more on an economic populist message, but more so, Americans do not blame Trump. They blame everybody. So if you are the person who runs against everybody, just like he did in 2016, then even if you're part of that system, even if you made many foolish choices like elevating Steve Moore and elevating, Larry Kudlow and not following through on a massive infrastructure package, if the other guy is doing nothing, like Nancy Pelosi and even like Mitch McConnell, then they're going to still go with you. Everybody is in like this lesser of three evils framework, and they're trying to pick the person who at least looks like they might challenge the system once again. I'm not saying it's a lock, but I'm beginning to feel, from what we talked about this morning, with that mayor, with that ad, with, he's recreating some of that 2016 energy, and it could work. Now, I could also say, and by the way, the battleground polls right now have tightened in every single one within 2 points. I think you were saying this. He's actually has a tighter margin in all of the battlegrounds right now than Hillary did in 2016. So the magic is there. It's just waiting to be seized. I don't know if he's going to do it, but we're going to see, right?
This thing is very much still in play. And yeah, there's a tweet going on. Walker Bragman put this together of RCP battleground averages in all of the key states. This right now for Joe Biden versus Hillary Clinton. And Hillary had a bigger edge in every single one. Now, look, if you had to handicap it today, you would say Joe Biden's going to get it. But I have a really sinking feeling in my stomach right now. And I want to be clear. I think both of these candidates have left the most salient issues off the table.
I agree with you.
Right?
Yes.
Trump is going back to some of the things that worked for him in 2016. We are in a profoundly different moment, right? And people have lived through the experience of his failures of leadership, of his inability to garner an effective economic response in this moment. Okay? I said this earlier, I'll say it again. The suffering of millions economically has been completely absent from either of these conventions. So he continues to leave that issue really on the table for anyone to seize. And I don't know that anyone is going to.
He could win by 10 if he wanted to.
Absolutely foolishly. But, and I will also say, in terms of what his economic message mostly is this time around, it is the Mitt Romney message just voiced by workers. But that's actually pretty effective.
Well,
and it's better.
If the other guy doesn't say anything.
And it's better than what Joe Biden is doing. And Democrats are tremendously vulnerable because they nominated a guy who basically can't campaign. Look, I know he gave the speech last week. They set the bar really low, like he wasn't even going to be able to read the teleprompter for 30 minutes. He did that. He handled it. He did a good job for what it's worth. Debates are another story. In terms of there's no real positive affirmative message coming from the Biden camp, just like with Hillary. You just feel like you've seen this movie before, where they have bet 100% on Trump is bad. Trump is a monster. Joe Biden is a decent man. And the fact that he's like just a basically decent person is enough. So when you see messaging coming out of the RNC that's like, oh, here's some humans who have had a positive interaction with Trump, and he's not the monster that you've portrayed him to be, then what case do you have for Joe Biden if all you're running on is his decency, right? So I think that this thing is very much still in play. You do see that ad you played, the front half of it in particular, very effective. The question mark for me is the second half when they're like, and we made the comeback and his incredible leadership. That could go one of two ways. That if things get a little better, if they continue to improve, maybe that lands. If they fall off a cliff and people continue to suffer and hurt, then it looks out of touch. So that's kind of, to me, the pivot point of what this election.
I've thought about it a lot, and you're right. I think that with the greatest political opportunity is being left on the table. But something I worry about is that many of the poorest, the most downtrodden, a lot of them were non-voters in the first place. A lot of them don't even feel owed anything by the system. They feel so rudderless and out there. It's unclear whether they're actually going to show up at the ballot box whatsoever in order to vote for Biden or for Trump. They might just feel totally apathetic about the system itself.
Those are some of the people that turned up for Trump last time.
Yeah, that's true.
That he depended on. I mean, that's part of why.
The newest voters.
Yeah, that's part of why the models were a little bit off in some of the swing states last time around, is because they didn't count on this surge of people, of new voters, of infrequent voters to show up for Donald Trump. So I think he needs some of those folks. And right now, that messaging is completely left on the table, and he's recreating some of the 2016 magic. Is it enough to overcome where we are right now in 2020? I think a lot depends on what happens, frankly, out of his control in a lot of ways over the next 60 days.
I think that's right. All right, I'm looking forward to your radar next, Crystal.